Vacha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha. Om Gyantiramandasya Gyanjana Salakaya Chakshumilitam Yena Tashmai Shigurve Namaha. Trinada Pisunichina Tarora Pisahishnuna Amanina Manatena Kitne Sadari Anya Velasta Sunyam Gyan Kamariana Vrita Manukalenya Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakti Utama Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadata Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Good evening or good morning, depending on where you are. Adorable, beautiful, beloved fellow devotees, sisters and brothers, uncles, aunties. I'm too old, no one's a grandpa or grandma anymore, never mind. More like maybe some daughters and sons. We are now on day, is it 17 or 18? Huh?
18.
18, day 18 of Kartik. And I have to say, maybe Shravan is a bit of a muscle, because I feel that with everybody's participation, us all hearing together, and the mercy coming from Parampara for Gurudev helping us all, I feel like the Leelas are penetrating my heart more than they have done before. And I feel that without it setting that intention of serving the Leela, something is vibrating a little stronger in the heart. So I'm hoping by day 30, it's going to be really, hopefully vibrating. It's very beautiful doing this all with you. Very special. And thank you for turning up every day. It makes it so special. So today is a very special day, as you probably know, is the disappearance day of both Srila Bhaktivedanta Vamana Maharaj and Srila Bhaktivedanta Trivikrama Maharaj, both dear godbrothers of Srila Gurudev. We're very, very fortunate to have Sripad Bhaktivedanta Nemi Maharaj giving us his valuable time. He goes, I think he's straight from a class into another class. So very grateful that he's giving us 2 slots in the week of his delicious guitar on this 18th day of Kartik. Please send me questions for Maharaj. Let me know if you want to ask directly or if you're feeling a bit shy. Some people like to have me ask on their behalf. Either is fine. Questions are always deliciously received, and Maharaj loves them. So Maharaji, over to you. Hari Bol, welcome again.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Iti Namane Vancha Kalpatarubhasya Kripasannya Vevata Putitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadait Gadadhar Shivasati Shiva Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So today is the disappearance of Srila Bhaktivedanta Vamana Gosvami Maharaj and Srila Bhaktivedanta Trivikrama Maharaj. They're both 2 of the 3 pillars of Sri Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti. They all received sannyas on the same day. And as long as the 3 of them were there, the Samiti was very peaceful, very progressive. Srila Vamana Maharaj is the senior of them. He was born in a very pious family. His paternal uncle was already a disciple of Srila Saraswati Prabhupada. His name was Nishinga Maharaj. And his mother was also a disciple of Srila Saraswati Prabhupada. But his father was, let's say, somewhat undisciplined. So when he was young, his mother was concerned, and she took Santosh, his name was that time, young boy. When he was only 9 years old, she took him to the mutt. When they arrived there, Nrsimha Maharaj was already staying at the mutt with Srila Prabhupada, and he took them to Srila Bhaktivedanta Keshav Goswami Maharaj, at that time Vinod Brahmachari. And Vinod Brahmachari, he looked after him. Srila Vamana Maharaj, he received Harinam directly from Srila Saraswati Prabhupada. And he was serving the devotees, like very young age. He was serving very humbly, putting out the plates, especially serving prasadam, putting out the plates, putting out salt, water, and then afterwards collecting the plates, probably taking prasadam remnants. So by this quality of service is like a perennial theme in the lives of our acharyas. It's the seed of everything. Shuddha Bhakata Charanareno. That when we offer service to pure devotees, when we offer devotees, okay, well, we can serve the pure devotees, but we don't have to serve present devotees because they're not pure devotees. But if someone is dear to the pure devotees, when we serve them and help them, then pure devotees are very happy. And conversely, we may think Vaishnava Ninda means criticizing pure devotees, but it's okay to slag off God brothers and God sisters because, well, can't take them seriously. This is a big mistake, huge mistake. I saw this personally in my interactions with Srila Gurudev. So either serving someone who's pure, dear to the pure devotee endears us to the pure devotee, and criticizing it's an aparad, and it creates a distance between ourselves and pure devotional service. So Srila Vamana Maharaj, when he was very, very intelligent, very scholarly, Srila Bhaktivedanta Keshav Goswami Maharaj he'd give him sweets, toffee, I think they called it, like a generic name for sweets in India is toffee. So if he would learn one shloka, he would get toffee from Srila Keshav Maharaj, and he would get a lot, he would learn so many shlokas. He's a great scholar, and he had photographic memory. He could remember anything that he read, he could remember. Srila Gurudev relates one time they went to a village or a town in Bengal, and the people there were eating fish, drinking wine. So Srila Keshav Maharaj, he made some very strong statements. He said, people who eat fish and drink wine, their mouths are like sewers. The people became very angry and they challenged the teachings. They were ready to throw stones at them. And they challenged the teachings that they were putting forward. Where is it shown that Chaitanya is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So Srila Keshav Maharaj, he turned to Vamana Maharaj and he said, speak. And he just recited like 50 verses from the scriptures explaining that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The opposition was silenced. He's very, very dear to Srila Keshav Maharaj. He used to operate the printing press. So in those days, it wasn't using photoelectric laser printers and all like that. It was mechanical, chunk, chunk. And they had to lay out the type by hand. And then press was a huge mechanical thing. So one day he actually got his finger caught in the press. I don't know if he took it right off. And Srila Keshav Maharaj, he came down, he was so upset. And he took him or carried him to the hospital, and they operated on the finger, and somehow or other it grew back as it had been. He's very, very humble. Srila Gurudev said that although he was extremely scholarly, he could always defeat any opposing arguments. But Gurudev said he never saw him taking credit or accepting praise for his enlightenment, his enlightening comments. When, after Srila Saraswati Prabhupada passed away, so there's a big disturbance in the Gaudiya Math, and some elements, they made accusations against Srila Keshav Maharaj and many other senior Vaishnavas, and they were arrested and put in jail. So the only person that the police didn't arrest was Santosh Brahmachari, because Sajjan Brahmachari, because he was too young. So then Sajjan Brahmachari, he personally cooked, and then he brought the prasadam for the devotees. But then the question was that how he's going to cook and offer the prasadam, because he didn't have diksha. So Srila Keshav Maharaj actually gave him diksha through the bars, through the prison bars in the prison there. So he was doing so much seva for the devotees, cooking for them, bringing the prasadam, feeding them. And then he also went to Calcutta, and he found a very prominent lawyer who came up and challenged the accusation. And then there were all the devotees were released, and the people who made the false accusations, they were sat in the prison. When our Gurudev came to the mat later on, so he had met with Srila Bhaktivedanta Keshav Gosvami Maharaj, and he made a determination that he was going to leave home. So one night he disappeared, and he ran through the jungle for 2 railway stations, so that he wouldn't be recognized. No one would know who he was or where he was going. He was just carrying his lota with him. He hadn't told anybody that he was going to do this. So that night, Srila Keshav Maharaj told Sajjan Brahmachari, that's Srila Vamana Maharaj, as he later became, he told him that you go to the station and, what was his name? Tiwariji. You find Tiwariji and bring him. Srila Keshav Maharaj hadn't received any letter from him. So late at night, Srila Gurudev got down off the train and he's looking at the station. There was no light there. And then he sees a light swinging along, an oil lantern swinging along. And somebody's calling out, Tiwariji, Tiwariji, Tiwariji. Yes, I'm Tiwariji. So he introduced himself that Guruji has told me to come and bring you to the mat. So they went to the mat, and Srila Vamana Maharaj noticed that how Srila Keshav Maharaj embraced Srila Gurudev very, very, very warmly, straight off, which is a little unusual in India. When we came around Gurudev, that time, we would be there for Gaura Purnima. There's huge crowds at that time. I mean, literally thousands and thousands, especially, thousands of Bengalis. We were like drops in the ocean, practically speaking. I remember we would come, when the Parikarama started off in the mornings, it was like a river pouring out. I mean, you could take your feet off the ground and just get carried along. So many. So Srila Vamana Maharaj, Srila Trivikrama Maharaj, and our Gurudev, they would be sat on the platform together. And I remember seeing Srila Gurudev was giving a lecture, and Srila Trivikrama Maharaj, he was like looking at him. He was just like a young child, like first time he'd ever seen a sadhu give a lecture. He was like staring at him with rapt attention. Very, very powerful devotee. I was told before we actually joined Srila Gurudev Sangha, or so he was chanting 3 lakhs daily. He said he chanted 1 lakh for himself, 1 lakh for his disciples, and 1 lakh for all jivas. And I was told that he would he would sit and there'd be a pile of handkerchiefs on one side, and he was chanting and crying, and he'd wipe his eyes and then put the handkerchief on the other side. And by the end of the day's chanting, 3 lakhs is quite a long time. There'd be this big pile of amazing, graceful, wet handkerchiefs, wet with his ecstatic tears. I never had like personal association with him, but I just remember the one time little interaction, personal interaction with him after Mangalarti at Devananda Gaudiya Math. We used to go up and offer obeisances to Srila Gurudev and Srila Trivikrama Maharaj and Srila Vamana Maharaj. So one occasion we went, he was sitting on his bed chanting with the mosquito net there. And I offered obeisances and he just looked at me just for 2-3 seconds. And it was such a powerful glance. Such a really powerful glance. I felt like totally transformed just by his glance. So he and our Gurudev were very, very dear godbrothers. Then he was the Acharya of Gaudiya Samiti. So then Srila Trivikrama Maharaj, he was also senior. I don't know if he was older than our Gurudev, but he was senior by years in service to Srila Gurudev. It's very, very different personality, extremely forthright. Sometimes he seemed abrasive, sometimes aggressive, but actually he was very, very simple-hearted, and would say exactly what he thought, what he felt. First time I saw him, he was giving class to a small group of the Westerners. 1996, this was in Keshari Gaudiya Math. And at the end of the class, he said, "So you're very elevated personalities. Unfortunately, you know nothing at all. May God bless you." And that was it. That was the end of the class. He and Srila Gurudev had an extraordinary rasa. Srila Trivikrama Maharaj, actually, he was, for example, if you look at Srila Keshav, what's it called? Srila Keshav Acharya Ashtakam, the Ashtakam that he wrote. He's quite absorbed in all reverence to his Guru Maharaj. It's very beautiful. It's very beautiful. I don't think that our Gurudev would have written an Ashtakam like that. So Srila Trivikrama Maharaj, he sometimes seriously and sometimes in joke, he would argue with our Gurudev. He actually seriously objected to Gurudev openly talking about Braj Bhakti, because it was a convention or like general what they were doing in Gaudiya Math at that time. That these things weren't discussed, and especially not discussed in front of Westerners. So one time he brought Srila Gurudev in front of Srila Vamana Maharaj, and he said, he's giving too exalted Harikatha. It's not proper. And Srila Vamana Maharaj said, actually, he's qualified. He said, usually when the Acharya speaks, he considers the qualification of his audience. But when Srila Vamana Maharaj, when Srila Narayan Maharaj speaks, the audience has to look at their own qualifications. This reminds me one thing that I neglected, really neglected, that Srila Vamana Maharaj, he's actually the Diksha Guru of Srila Gurudev's like senior Shiksha disciples. When we came in 1996, so Srila Gurudev was serving us all with his right-hand men, especially now Madhav Maharaj, Tirtha Maharaj, Srila Pushpa Van Maharaj, and Premananda Prabhu, those four especially. I was so happy to see how they were bringing us. I felt like, wow, finally I'm in Lord Chaitanya's family. And I spoke to Srila Gurudev about this, and you know, said how much I appreciate how he's looking after us all, and this is really like being in Chaitanya's family. And he slapped me on the shoulder. He said, yes, we will have ISKCON as it is. Swamiji's with us, he's not with them. So, so Srila Trivikrama Maharaj, yeah, sometimes he would joke with Gurudev, and sometimes it wasn't a joke. He was quite serious. There was one time, I probably told these pastimes before, but anyway, I'll just relate them. So one time we were in Puri. I suppose it must have been the time of Purushottam when I was there with them. So we were in Tota Gopinath. So Tota Gopinath is a unique sitting black Krishna. And I'm sorry, we weren't in Tota Gopinath. They were discussing somewhere, Srila Trivikrama Maharaj, he was saying actually Krishna is better than Radha. He would agitate Gurudev like this. He told one Western devotee, he said, when you want to get the last ghee out of the can, you have to crook your finger. And I know how to crook the finger. So he used to wind Gurudev up. So this time his wind up was that he was saying that Krishna is actually better than Radha, because everybody knows Srila Gurudev is like fanatical for Radha. He even said that without Radha, Krishna is impersonal Brahman. And we questioned him about that. But Thakur Bhaktivedanta says that Purusha, at least he has his desires, and Shakti fulfills the desires. And Gurudev said, desire is also a form of energy. It's very, very radical. So they were discussing this point, that whether Krishna is better than Radha or Radha is better than Krishna. And Gurudev said, anyway, we have Radha Vinod Bihari, we see that Krishna is taking the color of Srimati Radharani. But where do we ever see that Radha is taking the color of Krishna? And Srila Trivikrama Maharaj immediately said, Tota Gopinath. And Gurudev said, he was defeated on that occasion. Other occasions, we were at Nanda Baitak. Nanda Baitak is the place where Nanda Baba used to have discussions with cowherd men. So on one occasion, and Gurudev would always relate the pastime where Nanda Baba was hauled up by him. It was just after Krishna lifting Govardhan. So Nanda Baba was hauled up by his brothers and said, look, Nanda, you're not treating Krishna properly. We think that he's a very, very elevated personality. We've just seen him lift Govardhan Hill. He's killed so many demons, and no ordinary person can do this. So we think that sometimes you've had him carrying your slippers on his head. This is not suitable. Mother Yashoda tied him up that time. All this, we think that you should be more reverent. Gargacharya said he might be a demigod, he might even be God himself. And then Nanda Baba started laughing. Oh, I heard that cowherd men become mature only when they're 80. So now I say, you're saying Krishna is God? Just see what a nonsense he is. He's always crying and teasing the babies, and peeing on the floor if he can't find milk there, and twisting their ears, making the babies cry, stealing milk, stealing butter, crying for his mother's milk. Even the saints and sages, they're not like that. You think he's God? And he was laughing. Then everyone started laughing and laughing. And they just dismissed this idea. This is Braj. They completely dismissed this idea that Krishna is actually from Srila Gurudev. And he said, actually, Krishna is Nanda Baba's grandfather. Gurudev said, what? He said, yes, because because Brahma is the son. And then somehow he's saying that Nanda Baba was manifested by Lord Brahma. Nanda Baba is the son of Krishna. So Gurudev snatched the microphone off him. And he really went off explaining what is Braj Bhav, spontaneous. Everyone was just laughing and laughing and laughing. It was always such a festival at that place. And afterwards, after Gurudev left, also we used to do a play there with Vaikanas Maharaj, Nemi Maharaj.
Sorry, I think we all need to turn our videos off because keep your one on, Maharaj, but everyone else tell them to turn the videos off.
Okay. Okay, they're mostly off anyway. Alrighty.
Karamash.
It was before Goromandal Parikarama, and some Westerners had arrived, just a few, and Srila Gurudev was sitting on a landing, concrete landing with us, kind of welcoming us and talking to us. And Srila Trivikrama Maharaj was sitting alone on the next landing, just separated by a few feet. And he turned over, he said, don't listen to him. Narayan is very tricky. And Srila Gurudev said, no. Narayan is very simple. Trivikrama is very tricky. So Trivikrama, actually, he's the incarnation who tricked Bali Maharaj. Vamana appeared as a dwarf and begged 3 steps of land, and then in a tricky way, he covered the whole universe with these 3 steps. With 2 steps of land, he covered the whole universe, and then the third one he put on Bali Maharaj's head. And there was one particular, it's very, one day we were in Varshana, and for some reason, Srila Trivikrama Maharaj didn't want Gurudev to speak in the morning. I don't know if he thought that Gurudev was too tired, his health wasn't good, I don't know what it was. Anyway, and I don't remember exactly what he was talking about, but he was talking about chanting the holy name. So Srila Gurudev anyway spoke afterwards, and he completely challenged what Srila Trivikrama Maharaj had been saying. So then later on, we were at Sakigiri Parvat, and I came up to Gurudev after he'd given Harikatha, and he was saying in his Harikatha that we have to chant the holy name under the guidance of a pure devotee. So I came up to him and I said, Srila Gurudev, I really want to chant the holy name under the guidance of a pure devotee. And he went like this, under my chin. He says, oh, you do you? Just like, with a little child. And then he said, did you see Grandfather Bhishma this morning? Grandfather Bhishma? He said, yes, lying on his bed of arrows. And I understood what he was saying. He said that he'd filled Srila Trivikrama Maharaj full of arrows for the way he challenged his conclusions in his Harikatha. And then there was another occasion. I saw them at Ramgarh, which is where, no, not Ramgarh. Where is that? There's deity Baladev there, and it's where Baladev, maybe it is Ramgarh, where Baladev pulled the Jamuna with his plow. So Gurudev and Srila Trivikrama Maharaj, they were sitting on the platform under this big, beautiful banyan tree there. And Srila Trivikrama Maharaj was talking to Gurudev, and Gurudev was laughing so much he almost fell off the platform. It was amazing to see them. I never, you know, I didn't find out what they were, what he'd said. And then years and years later, Kishori Mohan was there, and he said, Srila Trivikrama Maharaj was explaining to Gurudev that actually Chandravali is better than Radha, because Chandravali is polite with Radha, with Krishna, and Radha is always giving Krishna so much trouble. And Gurudev was laughing and laughing and laughing. And Srila Trivikrama Maharaj, he kept on pushing the point. They went down to the Yamuna, and in the end, Gurudev said, anyway, they've come to hear me, not you. Srila Trivikrama Maharaj, he was very, very, like, very fond and gentle of the devotees. He was a homeopathic doctor, and he would treat treat all the devotees for whatever problems they had, difficulties they had. Last time I saw him, we were leaving Devananda Gaudiya Mat after the Parikrama, and he was sitting there almost. So as I went past, I offered obeisances to him. I was with all my luggage, and I offered obeisances to him, and he said, give me your blessings. And I was like, what? I can't give you my blessings. I was also in that mood of awe and reverence towards him. And he said, then you are a miserly man. And that was it. That was the last time I saw him. So we know that this day, actually, our Gurudev really, he wanted to leave on this day in 2010. I mean, he was really, really intending to leave on this day. And it was such a drama. And I mean, especially his senior Indian sannyasi disciples, they actually were doing a yagya, chanting mantras and like that. And afterwards, Srila Gurudev told somebody, I don't know what mantras these crazy people were chanting. I wanted to leave, but I couldn't leave. Oh, what I forgot to say was that I never finished. So Pujabad Madhav Maharaj, Pujabad Ban Maharaj, and Pujabad Tirtha Maharaj, and also Premananda Prabhu, they're all Diksha disciples of Srila Vamana Maharaj, but Srila Vamana Maharaj sent them to serve Srila Gurudev. And the atmosphere under Gurudev, there was, I mean, you know, Westerners never felt that we were kind of inferior anyway, or some outsiders or stepchildren or something like that. There's one time I remember, we were with Gurudev in Oakland near San Francisco. On a morning walk. It was Father's Day. And you're more affectionate to Swamiji's disciples than you are to your own disciples, because you're always taking them on your lap. And Gurudev said, yes, because I promised. Always, I mean, we never illusion at all. So anyway, Srila Gurudev was present when those three, the senior Indian disciples, when they received sannyas. And we were really curious to know, well, who gave them the sannyas mantras? And years later, we found out that, or mantra, we found out that Srila Gurudev and Srila Trivikrama Maharaj, they both gave the sannyas mantra together. Quite extraordinary. In Prem Samput, Shri Radha tells Krishna,
Maharaj, you said Trivikrama Maharaj and Gurudev gave the sannyas mantras together. I think maybe you meant Vamana Maharaj.
Absolutely, I meant Vamana Maharaj. Vamana Maharaj and Srila Gurudev, yes. Excuse me. I'm getting old. So, I do remember my own name. So, where was it? I forgot what I was doing now. So it was getting old. Oh yeah. So there's a statement in Sri Prem Samput. Srimati Radhika tells Krishna, who's come disguised as a beautiful young girl, that some people think that we're two people who are just madly and madly in love with each other. They don't understand. We're not two people at all. We're one soul with two bodies. So sometime later, on this day, one of the devotees was glorifying them. He said that actually the three, Srila Trivikrama Maharaj, Srila Vamana Maharaj, and our Srila Gurudev, they were like one soul with three bodies, like that. And Srila Gurudev approved that. I remember one year, not long after both Srila Vamana Maharaj and Trivikrama Maharaj had left, Srila Gurudev became very, very, deep separation, and devotees were very worried. And then the next year, I don't know whether it was deliberate or what, but one of the older Gaudiya Mat devotees, he was glorifying Srila Vamana Maharaj, and he was going on and on. And Gurudev started clanging the cartels. And in the end, Gurudev got really angry, and he was smashing the cartels, stop, like this. And I was thinking that maybe this devotee was making sure that Gurudev didn't go into deep separation so that he would leave on that day. I don't know. It's very difficult sometimes to understand what's really going on. Anyway, these are two great souls, Srila Pujapad Bhaktivedanta Vamana Goswami Maharaj and Pujapad Bhaktivedanta Trivikrama Maharaj, both great, very exalted in service. Trivikrama Maharaj, Srila Gurudev said that Srila Vamana Maharaj oftentimes, when he would write, Srila Vamana Maharaj was oftentimes too busy to reply, Gurudev has said, but Srila Trivikrama Maharaj always replied. And he said that although Srila Vamana Maharaj was like older than him in service, but actually Srila Trivikrama Maharaj was more like his Shiksha Guru, because he would give him so many instructions and so much help and assistance, and they would quarrel as well in a very, very loving way. That's one thing there, that they, although sometimes they would quarrel quite seriously, but always so much love. That's one thing that we learned in the Mark, that it doesn't matter, you can disagree with somebody, but the love doesn't have to be disturbed. Srila Gurudev relates one pastime where they were out on a preaching trip, and Gurudev was responsible for bringing all the apparatus to show slides. This is when Srila Param Gurudev was there, Srila Keshav Maharaj. So Srila Keshav Maharaj, and then Gurudev realized, oh my God, I didn't know what he didn't bring. He didn't bring the projector, he didn't bring the slides, anyway, something essential. So Srila Trivikrama Maharaj said something like, okay, don't worry, I've got you covered. So when Srila Keshav Maharaj said, so now we will show some slides, and then Srila Trivikrama Maharaj said, actually, Gurudev, it looks like rain now. And if it rains, then the audience will, some of them that come from very far, they'll have to walk through the rain. So better we stop the lecture now. So Param Gurudev said, okay, we'll stop the lecture now. And Gurudev didn't get into trouble for not bringing the apparatus. So I offer my obeisance at their lotus feet and pray that they'll bless me in bhakti and bless me in sadhu sangha and sadhu seva, Vaishnava seva. Hare Krishna.
Beautiful, Maharaj. You really, they're really present for us now. That was sublime. Did you just that story about when he asked for blessings? Did you give him blessings or not?
No, I didn't.
I can imagine a terrifying idea. Terrifying.
Yeah, really. Well, I wasn't terrified of him, but it was like, what? Me give you blessings? I just couldn't imagine doing that.
I was pretty terrified of him. he just had that sense that not only could he see through you, he could quite easily tell you what he was seeing. And I remember once, sorry for those who've heard the story, but I was on Parikarama once, and I saw Gurudev and Trivikrama Maharaj were walking along, sort of just chatting, and Gurudev pointed out to me like he'd bought me at the local kind of cow market. You know, I felt like one of his big Western cows. Oh, there's a big one over there. And they smiled at me as I turned around, and Gurudev gestured, saying, "Put us both on one on each shoulder." And I considered it for a moment, and then I realized there's just no way. I'm just too clumsy. I don't want to go down in history as the only person that's dropped 2 Mahabhagavats in one go. But also that story you told about Gurudev nearly disappearing on this day.
Yeah,
I remember it really distinctly. And indeed, he disappeared on Srila Vamana Maharaj's appearance
day, yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody told him that's what the day was.
Yeah, amazing. When I first became a devotee, when I got Diksha, I remember getting a letter from Srila Gurudev and realizing he was only the vice president of the society. And I thought, oh, I've taken the wrong guru. Who's the president? I had no idea of the relationship. But what you were saying about the interaction between Srila Trivikrama Maharaj and Gurudev was priceless. I remember time and time again at Rupa Sanatan, it was so beautiful because there's all audience participation. There wasn't a single member of the audience on Trivikrama Maharaj's side, which I think actually goaded him even more. We were all on Gurudev's side. I mean, people like me didn't know what was going on. We were just cheering like it was a football match. And we would just cheer for Gurudev whatever he said. It was so much fun. There was so much, not only love and affection, but so much humor all the time. So much humor.
Like at Samudragar, you know, where it's a discussion whether Samudra Sen is greater devotee or whether Bhima Sen is a greater devotee. Yeah. And Srila Maharaj would champion Bhima Sen. And I mean, here we go, one after another, one after another, one after another. It was fantastic. Yeah, but audience participation was fantastic. It was really like spectator sport. It was amazing.
And I remember in Navadvip once, I went past Srila Vamana Maharaj. I mean, he was almost like he was in Samadhi behind the net curtain. I mean, he was beyond being grave. I mean, it was quite astonishing going past him. You had no idea. I just had no idea what was going on. All I just knew is this is an extraordinary personality. And then I remember going to see Gurudev after that. But can you tell us something about, I just remember hearing about how Gurudev, as he was bringing all these Westerners to Navadvip, I remember stories about how Gurudev would go to Srila Vamana Maharaj like his older brother, sort of just telling him excitedly how well the Parikarama had been going. It was kind of quite a cute younger brother, older brother relationship. Do you know anything about that?
No, I wasn't so much in the loop actually there in part in all those interactions. Somebody like Yadu probably knows all those things, but I didn't know those things so much.
Does Madhavarat, do you remember anything? Have you got any interesting memories of?
I came much later on, so I didn't come till 2000. So I did have darshan of Srivikrama Maharaj and Srila Vamana Maharaj, but I didn't really, I didn't see Gurudev and Trivikrama Maharaj together on Parikarama. I came too late for that. And I just remember being kind of seeing the three of them on the stage together in Navadvip Parikrama and being like overawed with. And I remember, I mean, this is in 2001, and Gurudev started to do his pranam mantras like at the beginning of class, and he kind of got about halfway through, and then Trivikrama Maharaj, he just like grabbed the mic and just started to do his from the beginning, like almost like over the top of Gurudev. And I remember being like astonished, like, wow, who's this person who can speak over the top of Gurudev like that? And I don't know what was the dynamic going on, because like I say, I was too absolutely brand new to understand what was happening. But I remember seeing Trivikrama Maharaj once. He couldn't do Dandavat Parikrama like on the ground in front of the deities. So he would do it like up against the pillar, the pillars in Devananda Gaudiya Math. So but he would do it with such mood and such feeling that, you know, it was obviously superior to most other people's Dandavat Parikarama on the floor, but he did it with, like, against the pillar. Like, this is really beautiful to see. And yeah, but I was always in awe of Trivikrama Maharaj, and I remember he used to sit behind the deities in a chair, and I was always kind of too afraid to. I would go and do my pranam, but I was always too afraid to kind of. There were always a few devotees sitting there, but I would never sit there because I don't know what I feared, maybe getting shouted at or something. I'm not sure.
I'm with you, brother. I was just in the same boat. I felt the same.
Kind of intimidating. But Srila Bhavan Maharaj always seemed like I had a similar sort of vision to you of just seeing him in his room there in Navadvip behind the mosquito net chanting and looking like he was in another dimension completely, and feeling a different kind of awe and reverence for him, like that he was so immersed in his bhajan that you know, it's very such a beautiful soul. But
I love what you said, Maharaj, about one soul, three bodies. That's very powerful, very powerful. Budara Prabhu, do you have any memories?
Dandavats. Actually, I only have memories of Trivikrama Maharaj, not of Vamana Maharaj. Just that Trivikrama Maharaj had as everyone's describing, a very serious and sober nature. But whenever he would interact with Gurudev, it was always with a slight intentional cheekiness. And there was, you know, a great deal of affection and almost a kind of a theatricalness about it in the way that he would interact with Gurudev, and Gurudev would just laugh hysterically in terms of how they would interact with each other. So it was wonderful to see, and I never really had a chance. I wasn't lucky enough to have a chance to see all three of them together. But I know that Gurudev told me many times, in fact, maybe it was, I don't know, maybe only a couple years before Srila Gurudev left, that he called me into his room and he told me what he wanted for the future of his Sangha. It was only me and Rajanath was there, I think, part of the time, and Madhav Maharaj, and Gurudev said that he wanted his Sangha to follow the same spirit of cooperation and brotherhood, fraternity that that the three of them had demonstrated. The idea of one soul and three bodies, and how he gave the example of how they would share their disciples, and you know how they would not really hoard their disciples, but how they had a mood of cultivating what was best for the disciples. So if one disciple would do better perhaps under service of one of them, then they would send them that way, or perhaps the other way. And so, you know,
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, he went on for some time about that, and maybe I'll tell that another time. But yeah, it was their relationship was the you know, like, you know, Trimurti of the Bhaktivedanta Samiti, and the power of their mutual love and cooperation and respect was really, I think, what really drove the whole thing. And I know that Gurudev really wanted us to find a way to, I don't think we could imitate it, but, or, you know, what do you call it? Replicate it, but we could emulate it. You know, we could keep that in mind when we're thinking about, you know, how to cooperate, how to bring about the mission in the way they want us to. And I know that also, one last thing I'll say is in regard to this, and that was part of the conversation with Gurudev, that he was very hopeful that all the sanghas could come together and cooperate under Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's umbrella. And so, the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti was the model for that.
All the sanghas? How do you mean by that?
Like he wanted a kind of a cooperation as much as possible
Between all different Gaudiya Maths or what?
As much as possible. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Everybody who's under Mahaprabhu, right?
Well, that's what he would say. Like, so many times when, like for instance, when he first came and ISKCON was, causing some disturbances, I had many conversations with him about this. And, what I gathered, and maybe others didn't gather this, but what I gathered was, I use this word very cautiously, but it's the best word that I can find, is a universalist approach. He recognized that, all the branches of Mahaprabhu's tree really are, really actually very important. And if in some way there could be a way to achieve the vision of Bhaktivedanta Thakur, who was, who even has said that, all religions will be reconciled under the umbrella of Mahaprabhu's mission, and everyone will come together and chant, being inspired by Mahaprabhu's teachings. If the Salvation Army and the Christians and everybody can do that, then why not at least initially the Gaudiya Vaishnavas? So what I took away from their exchange, or my understanding of it, was that this was an implied goal, desire, expectation. I'm not sure what the right word is, but this idea of connection and cooperation was very important. And of course, it's what Prabhupada also asked for on his departure, that everybody learn to cooperate. So that's my little.
That's fantastic. Is there a word for fraternity that's both brothers and sisters? I couldn't think of one.
It probably is, and if not, we should create one.
Let's create one. Yeah.
Look at
that was very inspiring insight. Very beautiful. Okay. What day are we on today? Tuesday, isn't it? Yeah. Maharaji, thank you so much for a really beautiful recollection of these two extraordinary masters, actually. And I feel very lucky and privileged to have met them both. And you really presenced them tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind invitation.
1 second. Manini has a question, and we just about have time.
Okay.
How do you go, Manini from California?
It's not exactly a question. It's just more of what little small offering of Pushpanjali I can say. I did not know either of these personalities. I actually never even met Srila Gurudev, yet I feel very, very close to them. My Gurudev, Srila Madhav Maharaj, I don't know if you guys have seen, has started using this title, Vidya Lankar Vani. And this name was given to him by actually Srila Gurudev, Srila Trivikrama Maharaj, and Srila Vamana Maharaj, who's my Param Gurudev. He gave my Gurudev, I believe, Diksha. So just wanted to acknowledge Vidya Lankar Vani. I believe Vidya means knowledge and Alankar is an ornament. And he seems to know like anything. He can quote scripture like from everywhere. And I just wanted to offer that small thing because I think that the mercy of all of these acharyas is pouring into my heart and into my life right now. And I just, I know it's good to remember Vaishnavas on their appearance and disappearance days, and I feel fortunate to be in this association and hearing all these glories. So thank you.
Didi, you need to create an acronym for your Maharaj because he's an acronym master.
Yes,
You create an acronym for him, and it's got to be a very long acronym, like with at least 11 letters. He'll love that. He'll love that.
Thank you.
He'll love it. So today is Tuesday. Tomorrow we're back at the same time, 6 p.m. Wednesday, with our firebrand, Sripad Bhaktivedanta Ashram Maharaj. And Yashidara, you have any announcements?
No, none from me, but I was just thinking maybe we could sing Jaya Nilo Pramadhana. I don't know if that's appropriate, but maybe
Very
that's
appropriate.
Which one?
Jaya Nilo Pramadhana. Please excuse me, I'm going to disappear.
Haribol Maharaj, thank you.
Dandavats.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Dandavats to
Maharaji.
everybody. Hare Krishna.
Madhura Prabhu, you're the expert, so you decide.
You want to sing one or the other or both? Is that the...
What one of them? Which one?
I was just saying maybe we could sing Jaya Nilo Pramadhana as it's the disappearance day of Srila Vamana Maharaj and Srila Trivikrama Maharaj.
We can sing that if you want to do that instead of doing the Damodarastikam. That's fine, isn't it?
I'm happy to do both.
Okay, let's do the first
Let's
one.
do both.
I could do. I think it's page. What page is it? 99. And then we could do like
Sorry, can you just put the first line up on the chat?
J Anilo. So it begins with J-E.
Anilo Pramadana. Yeah.
Pramadana. Yashodhari's done it. Can you hear me okay? Good? You've gone on mute.
Oh, yes, brother, we can.
Wherever you are right now, don't go forward or back. It's perfect.
Okay, I got an external mic. I found it.
Oh, brilliant. Beautiful.
Jayanilo Premadhana Karuna Pracho Heno Prabhu Kota Gelaya Charya Thakur Kahamara Swarupa Kahasanata Kahadasara Gunata Patita Pavan Kahamara Bhata Juga Kaha Kavira Ekankale Kota Gela Gaura Natara Ashane Kuti Mata Anale Pasibo Gauranga Gunera Nidhi Kotagele Pa Se Saba Sangira Sange Je Koilo Vilas Se Sangana Paya Kande Narotamodas Jayanilo Premadana Karuna Prachu Ena Prabhu Kota Gelaya Charya Jai Vaishnav Thakur, Jai Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Jai Vaishnav. Lasatkundalam Gokule Brajamanam Yashodabiyo Lukaladavananam Paramristamatyan Tatu Gopya Namamishwaram Sachidananda Lasatkundalam Gokule Brajamanam Rudanta Mohunitra Jugmam Nijandam Karamboja Yugmena Satanka Netram Moho Swasakampa Trirekanka Kanta Stita Grevadamo Daram Bhaktivedam Namamishwaram Sachidananda Rupam Lasatkundalam Gokule Prajamanam Iti Drikisvalila Pirananda Kunde Swagoshamir Majantam Akyapayantam Tadiyeshita Gesu Bhaktajitam Puna Prematastam Satavriti Bande Namamishwaram Sachidananda Lasatkundalam Gokule Prajamanam Param Deva Moksham Namokshavadimba Nachanyam Brineham Varisadapiha Idam Teva Punata Gopala Balam Sadame Manasa Virastam Kimanye Namamishwaram Sachidananda Lasatkundalam Gokule Prajamanam Idam Te Mukam Pujam Mahavyakta Lile Britam Kuntalai Snigdaratas Chagopya Mohustumbitam Bimbarata Darame Manasavirastam Malamachavabhe Namo Deva Damodarananta Vishnu Prasida Prabhutuka Jalabdi Magna Kripadristi Bristyati Dinambatanu Grihane Shamamagya Medyakshitrishe Namamishwaram Sachidananda Lasatkundalam Gokule Brajamanam Uveratmajo Badhamudvevayadva Tvayamochito Bhakti Bhajo Krito Cha Tata Prema Bhaktim Swakam Viprayacha Namakshe Graho Mesti Damodareya Namamishwaram Sachidananda Lasatkundalam Gokule Prajamanam Namaste Studamne Spuradipidamne Tvadiyadarayata Vishwasyadhamne Namo Radhikaye Tvadiyapriyaye Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Pubhyam Namamishwaram Sachidananda Lasatkundalam Gokule Prajamanam Namo Radhikaye Tvadiyapriyaye Namo Radhikaye Tvadiyapriyaye Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Damodara Radha Damodara Damodara Radha Damodara Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Shri Radha Apologies, that might have been the morning tune, but you know.
You know what? I wouldn't know.